Hey guys, lepedaler back with another video. Today I'll be giving you guys my thoughts on the Wahoo KICKR Climb indoor grade simulator made by Wahoo. So if you guys aren't familiar with the KICKR Climb, I'll give you guys a brief explanation before I get into the video, and then we're going to give you my thoughts and if it's worth the money. So the KICKR Climb, if you guys aren't familiar, is made by Wahoo. They're the company that bring the indoor smart trainer, the KICKR. And what the Wahoo KICKR Climb does is that it simulates gradients. So you connect your front fork to the device, and the device is right here. So you can connect the front fork to the dropout, so you get something that looks like this. So no longer on the normal smart trainer that's direct drive, that you take the rear wheel off. So on my Tax, if you guys are familiar with the Tax Neo, I take my rear wheel off, but I have a riser block that is where the front wheel just sits into place so it doesn't move around. But when you get the Wahoo KICKR Climb, you actually take your front wheel off as well, and you put your fork directly into the unit and attach it, and then now the front is going up and down. So that is somewhat crazy. I mentioned it before, but I actually had experience on this when I went to a bike shop, but obviously it wasn't a thorough ride. It was for about 5 to 10 minutes, but it was really weird, and I didn't have enough time to actually give you guys like an in-depth review on it because it was pretty quick, and I don't have the best of memory because this was at a bike show. Right here you can see the unit. That's if you want to do it manually. So if you aren't attached or directly connected to Zwift, you can actually adjust it manually if you're just going off by power and you want to simulate a certain gradient. But other than that, it is a very cool unit. So we'll watch a video just to show you guys it in actual action. But right off the bat, it's $600 USD before tax, which I think is quite expensive. Now, I'm going to put it out there. I guess we are officially into this video. I know I usually say, let's get right to this video, but we already are in this video. Oh, and that reminds me, I totally forgot. If you guys aren't subscribed or have liked the video, if you can do that, it would greatly help, just because the growth of this channel is skyrocketing as of recently, and it's just going to help me in the not so distant future post better content. I really hope to get products like the KICKR Climb and actually test it. I have no problem sending it back if they want it back, but the whole goal is to give you guys a thorough review and test. I do see a lack of that on YouTube, so I do want to help the cycling community by bringing better content, and that's only going to be possible if I get these products in hand. Then again, for a lot of products I talk about on my channel, I do have somewhat personal experience or know a lot of the subject matter, so I always feel like giving my opinion is always justified because I do have some concrete reasoning behind my opinions and claims. So if you guys just want to see better content, please like the video and subscribe. It just really helps, guys. And for everyone that's already done that and already liked and subscribed to the channel, I just want to say a big thank you. It really helps with me putting out more content and just the overall growth. So you're going to be rewarded with better content, and that's just going to make my job a lot easier. So with that being said, for $600, the KICKR Climb is something that I would say is elite. So meaning that for an indoor setup, if you have the KICKR Climb, you must be pretty serious about indoor training. Now, the way I see it is that the KICKR Climb is amazing for people like me that live in a cold climate for a majority of the year. So I usually Zwift easily anywhere between from October, and I really am Zwifting until mid-May, right? So right now, tomorrow is actually going to be the first ride really outdoors. It's going to be roughly 19 degrees here in Toronto, Canada. But for the next week after that, the average is 9 degrees. So I personally don't like, having to bundle up and go outside in cold. I'd rather get a solid training session indoors if I can. So for the next week and a half, I'm going to be indoors yet again. And then finally, it's going to level around 18 to 19 degrees, which is bearable even for me. I'd rather it be like 20, 21, but 18 is fine. But that just shows you from October almost to May, I am indoors. So, for that type of person, that type of rider that a lot of their training is done indoors, the KICKR Climb is going to make that experience a lot better. Now, the one thing I also want to note is that I've ridden so far from January to now. This isn't even considering December, but let's say from January to now, I've done 9,040 kilometers indoors on the trainer. I think that is insane to do that many kilometers indoor. If we're taking in consideration December, I've done 10,000 kilometers on Zwift in specific of indoor training. So I've done 10K worth of training indoors. So for someone like me, having the best realism in terms of indoor training, I think would make the time fly a lot easier. Then again, I do have a really good experience just because I do have a smart trainer, so the gradient is all simulated, so I don't really have a problem. But having the realism of the front end of the bike, shifting is going to be super important with just the overall boredom, because the one thing and if you guys appreciate my opinion, I love sharing it, and that's what I'm trying to do. I will get into the KICKR. I just want to share my opinion first, because yet again, this is not a paid advertisement of the KICKR. I want to give you guys some thought behind it. So for me, the one thing I always find tough with indoor training is that it's pretty static, which means that you're not actually moving around. You're pretty fixed in one position. So a lot of the times I actually remind myself, this is a tip that I use for indoor training, is that after every 10 minutes, I like to go out of the saddle for about 30 seconds, stretch my legs out, incorporate different parts of my body, and then sit back. That reduces chafing and it reduces strain on different muscles that you only really get in a seated position. The one thing that's so nice when you do outdoor riding is that it's actually dynamic. You have gravity that forces you to use different muscle groups. You're climbing, you're getting out of the saddle. You're engaging your core because you actually have to keep yourself upright. Like, it's a totally different experience. What I like about the KICKR Climb though is that because the gradient can shift 1 to 3% pretty often on Zwift, it'll make you have to engage those parts of your body a lot easier. So I do like that aspect of it. Forces you to be more dynamic when you ride indoors, but for $600 it is quite expensive. So like I said, the reason why I went on that whole rant is that you really have to justify that purchase. So $600, you better be doing a lot of indoor training or just have the budget. I always say that with cycling, is that if you have the budget, buy what you want to buy, but in terms of best bang for your buck, or in terms of if you're going to get the value out of the purchase, you do have to do a lot of cycling indoors. Now the one thing I want to note too is that the KICKR Climb only works with the Wahoo KICKR, which is the smart trainer. So, if you're like me and you have a tax Neo, it's not going to actually connect. It's not going to work. So it has to work in conjunction. So that's the only thing that's you have to take in note, is that you have to be a part of the Wahoo gang or the Wahoo family. So let's watch the video now, guys, and see just what it looks like. So he gets on his bike. Nice E-tap, and that's basically just simulating. So they're saying if you want to get the best realism in terms of outdoor, he's on Zwift right now, and how it actually simulates climbing. You can see the KICKR is slowly going up there. So right there, we see it. So it'll actually move up and down. So there you have it. It's like he's riding uphill, and then when you actually descend, it can go down again. So it gives a pretty good realism. So that's 6% gradient right there, 7%, 8%. I think it's pretty cool, and it has a little bob effect. So it takes in that consideration of like realism in terms of road feeling, of having that little movement. So it's not, like I said, the whole thing is you don't want to be static. You want to shift a little bit. And then I guess he's descending now. Well, that wasn't accurate, but you guys get the point. So, in terms of realism, the KICKR Climb is going to give you the best realism. Now, worth it, I would say it's definitely not worth it if you're only riding 2,000, 3,000 kilometers in Zwift or indoor. It's not going to be worth it. You're not going to get your value just because you're not riding that much. Like 2,000 kilometers is basically 1 month of indoor riding for me. So if that's all you do during the whole winter, you'd be fine just with a direct drive smart trainer. And even that, I would say, is pretty expensive if you're not really going to get the value from it. Now, in terms of, the KICKR Climb, if you're doing anything, I would say above 5,000 kilometers of indoor riding, it's totally worth it. So if you guys do want to see maybe me riding the KICKR, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. With the growth of the channel, I hope to get products, so to give you guys my thoughts and in-depth review and test. One thing that I always note is that a lot of people that do give reviews, from what I can see, or just test, they don't really show that much riding in general. That's just my pet peeve that I have, because it's very hard when I have to buy purchases with my own money, like the Tax Neo. Like when I originally bought it, there wasn't a lot of thorough testing done on these pieces. So I like to say this all the time. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I do a lot of riding. So to test different bikes, different products, it's not going to be a challenge for me, just because I love riding. I ride almost 70 kilometers, 2 hours every day. So for me to test things, it's not a challenge. So I really do say that not to brag. It's really just to encourage you guys to like the video, subscribe to the channel, because I will try to give you the absolute best content possible. But then again, the only way I can do that right now, and it's working because a lot of people watching this appreciate the lengths I'm going, trying to give you guys my knowledge, is that, you know, I can only really give you guys my thoughts from personal experiences or from what I see on YouTube or what I see on the internet, but I really do hope in the not so distant future, as the channel grows, which it is, and it will, it's just, we'll get those products in, I'll give you thorough testing with, you know, better content in general. So if you guys can support the channel, it's just going to help in general. And I will say that because a lot of people, you know, have to remember that this is a small YouTube channel to begin with, and eventually we're going to have to grow like everything, and that can only happen with you guys. So I'm always appreciative, I'm always grateful that I have you guys supporting me, and that's basically it. So I think the KICKR Climb is totally worth the money if you are cycling, you know, I would say at least 5,000 to 6,000 kilometers of indoor riding throughout the year. Because then the $600, you know, is not that expensive when you consider that you're spending so many hours indoors. Like I said, I spent 10,000 kilometers indoors, so totally for me it would be worth it, I feel. But anything less than, I would say 3,000, and even that's a stretch, 3,000 and 2,000 or 1,000, I would say it's a waste of money just because you're not on the trainer that much. I feel like any ride on the trainer from an hour to an hour and 30 is pretty doable, even when I used to be on not even a smart trainer, on a one that was like you put your rear wheel, a fluid trainer. Like an hour and a half is still doable in that. Obviously having direct drive is a lot more immersive, but it's doable. But anything above 2-3 hours, which I usually do every day, you know, having the front KICKR Climb is going to make the experience a lot more enjoyable, and you won't really dread being on the trainer because you have that dynamic movement. So that's about it. If you guys did enjoy the video, like I will say, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Weather's warming up in Canada. Better content coming at the end of May. Stay tuned for that. And until the next one, keep on pedaling.